Agri Committee of Indian Chamber of Commerce. We have today with us a very august group led by our president, Mr. Pradeep Sureka. We also will be shortly joined by the advisor to the government of West Bengal on agri and allied sectors, Mr. Pradeep Mazumdar. And there are leading lights from across the agri industry spectrum. We also have senior representatives today from the different regional chapters of Indian Chamber of Commerce. As you all might know, Indian Chamber of Commerce, although headquartered in Calcutta, has a vibrant presence across the country. And this year, with the leadership of our president, we've expanded that yet more. So we've invited, and they've kindly joined the representatives from the different regional chapters of the Chamber of Commerce. We welcome all of you and thank you for finding time to be part of this meeting. Without much ado, I would request our president, Mr. Pradeep Sureka, to give us his address. Thank you. And I can see Mr. Pradeep Mazumdar has also joined. Thank you, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. So first of all, welcome to Principal Advisor, Mr. Mazumdar. I had the honor of meeting him once at Navanno. We have always looked forward to his guidance on this particular subject. He's a master at this particular subject. First of all, let me say I am not leading this agriculture. I'm trying to understand the subject. It is not my field. So we have Shrikant, who is leading the show, and we have eminent people, sir, on this committee from across the country, not only from Bengal, from Orissa, from many parts of this country. And as we all know that agriculture is such an important subject. And we at ICC are very keen, and we have been proactively engaged in the business of agriculture, food processing, and allied industries. We have been holding a lot of national, international seminars. We are going to be part of the Mango Festival, which is to be held soon. And we hope we will be graced by DB on that particular occasion. We have had trade shows. And sir, we would like to, I would only reiterate as what we have earlier proposed to West Bengal government, and I would request my other members from different parts of the country to similarly take it up in their various states as to how we can promote and increase the income of our farmers. Yesterday I was with the Nestle MD, and it was startling to hear that 41% of our food goes waste, which is sure criminal in a country where, in the world today, where there is food shortage, and if 41% of agriculture goes waste, we as a chamber should take this responsibility and see how we can reduce this waste, how we can increase productivity, channelize food products and agri products, how we can partner with the various states to reach out to the farmers, transfer technology, transfer resources which they are in dire need. I mean, there is abundance of resources in our country. It only needs to be channelized. It needs to be put in the right place. And the farmers have to have confidence on the entire ecosystem. We business people, they should trust, they should believe in us that we mean good for them. So with these few words, I would leave it to Pradeep Da to advise us as to how we can, as a chamber, as a responsible chamber, engage more and more in this particular industry and this particular, which is 60% of our economy, how we can help this economy grow, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, President, for this visionary address to all of us. We have with us today Mr. Pradeep Mazumdar, who holds a degree in agricultural sciences with engineering, a postgraduate in agriculture extension, and a diploma in management. Mr. Mazumdar, of course, has had extremely wide corporate and industry body experience, having held very senior positions across various organizations, including having served as the chairman of Crop Life India, which is an association of technology-driven crop science industry. In 2011, he was invited to help the new government in West Bengal to chalk out a growth plan for the rural sector. And he was appointed as the advisor to the Honorable Chief Minister, Governor of West Bengal, from April 2012. Mr. Mazumdar has been guiding and leading this whole drive in West Bengal, which has led West Bengal to scale heights that it's never seen. We have the privilege of having him with us today. Thank you very much, sir. I know how tied up your calendar is, and you've agreed to be with us just till for a few minutes, and that itself is very valuable for us. I request you now to kindly share your guidance and words of wisdom with all of us here, sir. Thank you. Sir, your microphone is on mute. May I request you to please unmute? Sir, you've shared the screen.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry for the technological glitch. Maybe I'm not very.
No, we can hear you clearly. Thank you.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I will continue.
Yes,
okay.
Sir. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Sureka and Mr. Srikant Goenka. ICC had been standing by the government in particularly in this segment, agriculture and allied sectors development in West Bengal. I am also this Mr. Aditya Bagri, your co-chairman of the ICC Agri Business Committee, other members of the ICC in Calcutta and across the country of the Food and Agri-Business Committee, and ladies and gentlemen, I can see Suparna, of course, who had been always very supportive of the government's efforts. I would just briefly like to touch on few of the vitals that the government of West Bengal had been pursuing since 2011. We have been pursuing development in agriculture, horticulture, fisheries, and animal resources with a very focused approach to increase the income of our farmers. Right from day one, the new government took oath. Our Honorable Chief Minister, who herself had held the portfolio of agriculture initially for about 6 months, had the vision rewritten, and everything sort of revolved around enhancing the income without much noise made about it. The significant change in our strategy had been to identify the gaps in demand and supply. You see, generally, people would like to believe that we have a food shortage. Yes, we had a food shortage when our population was under 44 crores, way back in 1965. That's when we had to beg and borrow 160 lakh tons of wheat and 10 lakh tons of clean rice from United States of America under a treaty called PL 480. Those who have gray hairs like me would remember about that PL 480, but probably have missed out the penalty that India had to pay for it. We had to devalue our precious rupee then on 6th June 1966 by 38% in one go. And we had a finance minister from this region, certainly not late Pranab Mukherjee, whom you would associate with finance ministry. This was another gentleman called late Sachin Chaudhary, who was actually an industrialist who had then been the finance minister of India. I had, as a young school-going boy, had seen him in tears on 5th June 1966. He was summoned to Delhi to sign the devaluation order so that the ship could leave the American port. The then Prime Minister had taken an oath that such humiliation was not what could be borne by her fellow citizens, and Green Revolution was planned, and rest is history. Since then, almost more than a decade now, we have been suffering from excess production of cereals, prime food for Indians. And you would probably remember, those who follow the media, over the last more than a decade ago, the Apex Court of India had ordered that if you don't have sufficient store to warehouses to store this excess production, don't let it rot. Give it free to those who need it. Now, of course, free cereals are being distributed in West Bengal for last 2.5 years, and it will continue like this. We have, in the meantime, since 1965, more than tripled our population. It was under 44 crores. It's now touching almost 135 crores. And yet, we have surplus production of cereals. You might have come across about wheat shortage. That's because we are feeding the world since the Ukraine-Russia war has broken out. There has been huge export out of the country. But when it comes to paddy again and rice, we have surplus. Yes, there are, of course, lots of other areas where we have shortages. What West Bengal government had done, therefore, was to identify the gaps in demand and supply of prime agricultural produce and pursue the objective of achieving initially self-sufficiency in such crops and produce, and thus also ensure remunerative realization by our farmers. If you produce which is not in demand, you certainly are not looking for good realization by the producers. None other than, or I would say, the industrialists would understand this much better than anybody involved in agricultural practices. It takes them time to understand that if there is no demand and they produce by habit, they will end up with either distress selling or wasting their produce. Therefore, thanks to the experience I gathered during my 3.5 decades in the industry, this is what was our HCM's Honorable Chief Minister's dream and vision, that we must work for improving the income of our farmers right from day one. So we pursued only development with focused efforts to develop such crops and such animal resources and even fish, which were in demand. Okay, several steps were taken in congruence with this strategy and in achieving the stated objective of enhancement of farmers' family income. To mention a few of the steps taken, despite switching to finer varieties of paddy, which is our main crop in West Bengal, with lower yield, finer grains, which are generally OP variety. Those who understand botany will understand what I am referring to. Open pollinated varieties versus high yielding and hybrid. will always give lesser yield. But these are varieties which were in demand in the general markets outside the PDS system, which helped the farmers to get much better prices. If the yield was lower by even 20%, it was fetching more than 50% in realization. Therefore, we encourage them to go for such varieties where these were found to be in demand in the open markets. And this is one instance. We have been able to enhance paddy production still, despite switching to lower yielding varieties for better realization. Over the last 10 years, I would say 11 years to be more precise, we have been able to increase our production last estimated or last assessed last year to 254 lakh tons, 2.5 crore, little more than that, compared to 2 lakh tons, which was the production in 2011. Because of adoption of good agricultural practices supported by the industry members. The other crop I would like to bring to the table today is maize, which is a vital ingredient to scientific feed for poultry and fisheries. This has been increased from 3.5 lakh tons to last year 26 lakh tons, which is a 7.5-fold increase, particularly for growth in convergence. While the government had been pursuing development of particularly layer-bird poultry and fishery, for which, as you know, fish.
To open the experiment by experiment.
The Bengalis have insatiable appetite for fish, and our shrimps and crabs, the the seafood, the demand is increasing in the most attractive markets of the United States and other countries. Our export has gone up by 1.5 times to 1.3 lakh tons of only aquatic, marine produce. The maize was another remunerative crop for which we had a very focused approach. Now, if we look at fish production, I have just talked about how maize has helped us to capture the local demand, and it's still growing. We used to produce about 14 lakh tons of fish in 2011. It's grown to more than 18 lakh tons a year ago, and it's still growing because the demand, as I said, is still insatiable. Egg production in 2010-11 was 1.2 crores per day. That's the consumption in West Bengal, used to be. With socioeconomic development, as I said, as the gradual increase in demand, in income of the farm families, there has been more demand in the rural areas. The growth rate has been faster. It's been increased already to 3 crores per day, from 1.2 crores per day to 3 crores. And we are targeting to grow to achieve 4 crores by next year. This is to meet only the local demand. Our plan is to keep that trend going so that we start exporting to Northeast and other markets which are adjacent to West Bengal. This is with full support and incentive from government for enhancing the layer-bird poultry, and with hand-holding support from the government. All such efforts have resulted in increasing the average income of the farm families in West Bengal to 2,93,000 per year. In 2017-18, joint evaluation, beyond that, for last 2 years to be more precise, have been held up by Government of India. Hence, this data is only available only up to 2017-18, which I have just quoted. However, the growth in gross state value of agriculture and allied sectors of West Bengal in current prices has been 7.82% growth in 2018-19, whereas throughout India, it was 4.5%. In 2019, it has been 17.36%, whereas throughout India, it's been 11.45%. In 2020-21, it's been 13.545% in West Bengal versus 7.3% in India. This is how we have been able to achieve the growth in farmers' income and general growth in agricultural gross value of the state. Compared to India, it's been a major significant increase, and our strategy had succeeded primarily by pursuing the crops and producers which are in demand in the market. If we had not pursued that, it would never have been possible to improve the realization and growth in sectors, subsectors where there is more money available for the farmers. Of course, this is not the end of it. I have not been able to list out the support that our government had been providing apart from giving hand-holding support and disseminating new technologies. Our current significant focus is on converting almost 6 lakh hectares of fallow land that's been inherited by the new government in 2011 to convert them into cultivable assets. And the underpinning solutions are: 1, conserve water and cultivate maximum area through irrigation with minimum water. That is through micro irrigation system. And here comes Mr. Goenka, one of the premier leaders in the industry in this segment. They had been quite supportive to Government of West Bengal in our effort to irrigate hitherto arid areas with micro irrigation systems. We have been able to reduce the fallow land over the last 3 years in particular by more than 2 lakh hectares. And the effort is continuing with greater accelerated speed, and we hope that we'll be able to achieve our objective very steadily over the next 2 years to completely convert the fallow, not very attractive parcels of land, particularly in the arid area, to really economic assets for the local people there. We have formed FIGs, common interest groups, farmer producer organization, and farmer producer companies, particularly in the arid area, and provide them with hand-holding support to look for a better livelihood through cultivation of crops, fruits, rearing goats, poultry birds, development of fisheries, and provide market linkages to ensure remunerative prices. So this has been our main focus, and this is what we have been trying to do to support our majority of the rural population, which is still dependent across the country. It's not a monopoly of West Bengal, but in West Bengal, we have a serious problem of very concentration of marginal farmers, almost 97%, now that the mutation has been made absolutely free over the last 4 years for agricultural land, as also the entire dues of the land cess and land revenue, land taxes have been for agricultural purposes have been exempted. There is a spurt in getting land mutated, and we are seeing rise in numbers of recorded farmers and sharecroppers. This is the only state which provides financial support even to the recorded sharecroppers. So it's been increasing, and there are lots of supports otherwise which are provided, including huge support for mechanization. That has resulted in two things. Our marginal farmers, they are very resilient. We had in last 4 years, we had 3 major cyclones afflicting our standing crops. They could be harvested quickly through large machines, harvesters, latest crawlers, which are not affected by moist conditions in the farm field. And the resilience comes into play when we find that even if the crop is drowned and at the early stage it is desiccated, it's decomposed, it's greened up with timely support from the government and the kind of protection we provide with free crop insurance of the state government. It's been quite an experience for me. It's not possible in larger countries where they operate, they do farming on larger areas. It is only the marginal farmers who have that level of resilience. They can convert a disaster into prosperity, provided you give them timely support with appropriate inputs and all the hand-holding technological support in adopting new ways of protecting themselves from the hazards of even natural calamity. This is what, in a nutshell, I would like to share with you. This is more my experience. Unfortunately, I have to leave. Thank you very much once again to all the members of Indian Chambers of Commerce for all the support you have been providing to the government in disseminating our all kinds of incentives that the government offers across the board, and also encouraging people to come to West Bengal to invest in agri sector, which is one of our still large sectors. We have more than 55% of our population dependent directly and indirectly on agriculture. So it's an important sector. I'm grateful to Mr. Srikant Gwenka for taking the initiative of holding this kind of a discussion within yourselves. I'm sure the deliberations will result in a very robust action plan, and I wish, being a parochial person working for West Bengal, I would expect that you would devote some of your energy, support and resources in West Bengal for further development and enhancing, accelerating our development efforts in the rural area. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much for this extremely inspiring address. I think the statistics you spoke about would be perhaps unmatched in most parts of the country. And as they say, what they don't teach you at a business school is what we've just learned in terms of the impact that good governance can bring to the well-being of this huge population of farmers that exist in West Bengal. So please accept our heartfelt congratulations on this great achievement, and certainly to the Honorable Chief Minister for her whole vision of Ma Mati Manush, which encompasses this focus towards the farmers, towards grassroots and towards ground realities. And I'm sure with her continuous guidance, we will all work towards achieving Shonar Bangla. That is certainly from all of us, our commitment and our vision and our dream for the state.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
If I may, I'll take leave.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I have to leave, but I've got another commitment which I cannot be deferred.
No, sir. Thank you for sparing your valuable time, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. That was so inspiring.
Friends, we will continue this discussion, and I will just take you through the perspective and the context in which this committee exists and the terms of reference that we are working to. And then we request all of you to kindly share your thoughts, your guidance. And it's been a great start to the meeting with Mr. Pradeep Mazumdar's visionary address to all of us. So, friends, as we all know, being in the agriculture sector, that despite COVID, the agriculture sector has witnessed a very good growth of 3.6% the year before, and last year agriculture witnessed a 3.9% growth in the GVA, which indicates the robustness of the sector and how resilient it has been despite COVID. The recent budget also, if we look at the highlights and the whole direction in which the government is looking to take the sector, the government and the Honorable Finance Minister spoke about chemical-free natural farming. She spoke about the way NABARD is to facilitate funds with capital to finance startups for agriculture and rural enterprise. In fact, on this committee itself, we have some of the leading startups right here. Their windows are in front of me. And we also, the Honorable Finance Minister spoke about the delivery of digital and high-tech knowledge and processes to farmers. She also spoke about Kisan drones. And we've been part of various reviews that have been conducted by the Honorable Prime Minister after that to make sure these are well implemented. So this committee operates in this context. It's also operating in a context where the young people of India are beginning to lose hope in agriculture. And when we go to farms across the country, we find the next generation not really joining their fathers in the farms, but in fact going off to cities to take up more, colorful and attractive assignments and jobs. We believe that agripreneurship, which is entrepreneurship in agriculture, is the future, with knowledge incubations, with startups, with technologies, and most importantly, linking farmers to the marketplace. In that context, sitting with the president and the senior vice president of the Indian Chamber, we figured out and worked out brief terms of reference. I will just take a few minutes and go through these before we open the house for suggestions. As you all know, the Indian Chamber works closely across the Government of India's agriculture portfolio, from the food processing, agriculture, commerce, horticulture, and of course the resource institutions, the ICARs and so on. We also work with the state agriculture departments, horticulture departments, allied sectors across the country. This year we focused on three main areas of impact. One is, of course, the farmer producer organizations, and I'll speak more about it in just a bit. The diversification of agriculture. So even Mr. Pradeep Mazumdar spoke about the crop diversification to make agriculture viable. And with the changed consumption pattern, we believe as an industry body, we can create impact in helping farmers migrate to a more profitable crop migration. Our president just spoke about 41% of India's food produce being wasted due to inadequacy of food processing. And that indicates the huge opportunity for us to create impact and to build great businesses. In this context, one of the major programs we are thinking of organizing, this will be our flagship event, is an e-conference, or not, actually it's a physical conference on FPOs, where actually it's a B2B event where FPOs are invited. There is on one side the input companies, input knowledge partners, seed, fertilizers, crop care, micro irrigation, agri implements, the entire spectrum. On the other hand, we have food processing companies, the output side are the transportation, logistics, storage, and the entire works, sorting, grading. The other sector that will be present at this is the access to credit, which is to bring in banks there at this meeting, this B2B organized meeting. And most importantly, we will bring in the buyer fraternity, the Spencers, the Future, the Walmarts, the Kevinters. So at one forum, you have these 100 FPOs or 70 or 50 FPOs coming in. And in that day or 2 days or 3 days, we give them an opportunity to transform their business across to move away from being just farmers to agripreneurs. So we are looking at doing this in the government of West Bengal. We put up a proposal. We want to take up Odisha next. And to my colleagues from around the country, the members from the Indian Chambers regional councils, I'm requesting you to consider championing this in your state. From our central Indian Chamber of Commerce, Calcutta, we'll be happy to give you all kinds of support, including the whole format for this meeting and helping this entire thing being organized. So similar, this could actually grow into what Haryana has been able to achieve, where Haryana has made great impact helping farmer producer organizations achieve impact with input with on the output side. And already 11 crop value chains have been implemented, and 15 more are in progress. And already 35 FPOs are being worked upon, and another 200 are underway. So there is this possibility to expand this and create real impact. So agri, the ICC Agri business works very closely with industry and governments, trying to help implement the programs, to do policy advocacy, and to represent ways in which the kind of impact governments are wanting to make can be actually achieved. We hold more than 30 events in a year, one of the most active chambers in the agriculture space. These are some of our more signature events, or more famous events, you could say. The potato conclave, the rice conclave, the Bengal Fish Fest is a very famous event. The Mango Utsav is a very famous event. And I'm sure you do get updates from the chamber on all the events that are held. If you don't, please do let us know. We'll update our database, and we invite you to join us in these events. I'm going to take a pause here and open this house now for your suggestions, your inputs on what you feel we can do to create impact and to further this terms of reference and bring it into reality. I'm going to just circle around in no particular order, but if anyone wishes to unmute and speak, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I'm going to start by requesting maybe Dr. Dinesh Chauhan from Dehat to please unmute and share with us what can be done. I'll request everyone to be brief given the constraint of time. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Shrikantji, for this honor and privilege to speak first. Anyways, I was not prepared that I will be starting this session on behalf of the industry. So luckily, I am in Calcutta, and I had a couple of meetings here in last 24 hours to get a feel of what West Bengal agriculture sector is all about. So we are already started our operations 6 months down the line in West Bengal. So that has been doing well if we talk about our organization as far as West Bengal is concerned. We, as Mr. Madhumdar rightly said, that the biggest challenge with West Bengal is that most of the farmers here are marginal, right? So though overall in India, the situation is more or less same, barring a couple of states. But West Bengal scene is entirely slightly different, where most of the farmers are marginal. And I had meeting with a couple of people who are working in this sector, who have spent a lot of time in this state particularly. And from there, what I realized that the farmers are actually not having a lot of options here, and the size is so small that until unless it is done in collective farming, right? So not much can be done. And another thing which is very critical for state of West Bengal is, like, apart from agriculture, like fisheries is another area where a lot of farmers are involved into it. Though as Dehat, we haven't done lot many things in that sector, but definitely we will think for a period of time. On the output side, if I talk as an organization, what we have been doing is, like, couple of commodities we have been fairly doing well. You see, the biggest challenge with all these marginal farmers, what we have realized is that capacity building of these farmers, right? So until unless we enable them with all kind of expectations which we have got, and it is not an easy task. So we have to handhold them in this journey, and probably we are trying our bit to do that at various places wherever we have got our Dehat centers or wherever we are working with farmers. So it becomes collective responsibility of all of us, apart from what usual businesses we are doing, that we should come forward and do our piece wherever possible. How we can handle these small and marginal farmers, how we can educate them. Let's give them the best of the inputs right at their place. And maybe that is the only way out, where we provide them the better advisories region wise, and then probably we enable them with better package of practices, right? So then only we can get the right kind of produce which actually industry needs, right? So the problem is that farmer is growing certain things, and whereas industry requirement is different, right? So we need to educate them. Until unless we do that, probably this gap will be reduced. So that is the area. And then probably if I talk about from the government side, we need a lot of support as a startup, and when we work in the field, we need a lot of support from the government front in terms of licenses or clearances, for ease of doing the businesses, not only with us but even with the case of FPOs as well, right? So I think that a lot of these FPOs are unable to do the transaction because most of them have still not obtained the licenses at most of the places to do the business, because actually FPO is also a business entity, right? So can we come up with a single window clearance system where FPOs can, the moment it is registered, it is already pre-qualified for all the licenses, all those things, so that, because we have to make them, sensitize them that they are an entrepreneur and they are doing actually businesses, right? And to be beyond hand holding for formation of these FPOs for 3 years or 5 years, we need to make them sustainable by making them, uh, giving them the technologies and enabling them with various kind of models where they can actually generate revenues. So these are very small farmers, right? So they actually need a lot of much more hand holding than a regular entrepreneur. So with these words, I would like to stop here and listen from all other people here. There are a lot of industry people whom I know, familiar faces as well. So let's give them a chance and listen what are their views. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chauhan, for reinforcing the need for aggregation. I'm going to just request Ms. Jha, Millet Magic, to please share her suggestions, please.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. This is my first meeting with ICC Agriculture. I am part of IWEC in Odisha, the women wing. So basically what we were discussing about FPC technology, food processing, finance, capacity building. So when I started these things, we basically included all these. So we are having a millet-based food processing unit in one of the tribal area of Orissa in Mayurbhanj district, where we are having a millet-based high-end, full of high-end technology food processing unit, where millet is being processed into high-end food products, and we have named the brand Wow Mom. And the entire thing is being prepared by the tribals over there. The farmers' family are working over there, and they are only preparing those products. They are packaging in, and they are working on all the high-end machineries. And I proudly say that my 70% workforce is tribal women. And we have just trained them. They don't know, most of them don't know read and write, but they can work on machines, and they are able to be my best machine operators. But at the same time, the confidence which we have been able to build is the back-end integration. That is, now farmers over there are taking interest in growing millet. Now they feel that if we grow millet, we have a market already in their own village where they can sell it at a good price. And the value addition to it is that the farmer's family are only working in the food processing factories, so they are getting the value add. Besides, to create a complete ecosystem, that area is known for sabai grass products. So that's again an eco-friendly, non-timber item of which they make handicrafts and all. So on the sidelines, we are even using those baskets and all for our gift packaging and creating some value add to it, so that also we can incorporate it and create a complete ecosystem in that area by giving our end-to-end solution for each and every farmer, right from farming. We have formed the FPC also now, where our FPC is majorly working on millet-based training, how they can grow millet, how they can have best possible millet products to the people. Beyond that, we are having a food processing unit where they can easily sell their millet. at the food processing unit, they are only packaging the food, making the food processed millet products and packaging the product. And at the final end, we are creating market, as we are having a very high-end branding system and all. We are already on Amazon and creating a complete modern trade facilities for it. So we are trying to create a complete 360-degree ecosystem for whatever we were talking about right now.
Lovely, wonderful. So maybe we can learn some of that, ma'am, and see which program of ours we could implement that in.
So I'm also working on dairy for the same 360-degree. Once I implement it, I'll share with that too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. May I request Mr. Deepak Gupta from Spencer Retail to please come in and give us suggestions on our committee and the inputs, because Mr. Gupta, you represent a very integral and important part of our Agri committee and business system. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Gunta. So again, I would start with, this is my first meeting with ICC, though I have a very strong background with ITC as well. I worked with ITC Chopal and worked very closely with farmers, so far, especially in the back-end integration. But coming back to Spencer's, we are one of the, we are one of the last mile members of the supply chain. We have retail outlets, and what we are trying to do right now with a lot of agri producers, we are doing a backward integration. And like you rightly said, your starting statement was, 41% of our produce goes waste. Which is, and in last couple of weeks, we are seeing that, very soon there will be a food shortages across world. So if we save on this 41%, if we even save a part of it, I think it is one of the greatest projects which is possible. And, retailers like us, which is Spencer's Retail, and there are a lot of retailers, who are doing a project called farm to fork kind of a thing. So we have, so our latest example is like this weekend, we have bought a lot of mangoes from, there's a place called Murshidabad in, very close to Calcutta. It's hardly 100 kilometers from. And so we have done a lot of sourcing directly from the farm level. And, the entire supply chain was ours. And, it helps us, giving a good value to farmer. It helps us a good value to give to a consumer as well. So we have bought something at an X price, and just about X plus one, we are selling it as well. So for us as a retailer, that's the most important piece. And that is what we are doing very aggressively right now. We are trying to do a lot of sourcing at a direct farm end, which helps us, in a better prices at both the ends. So that's something which is a very, very integral part when it comes to retail, and when it comes to an organized retail. So our, for us in the supply chain, I would say our damages and our losses are pretty low. Keeping the entire ecosystem in mind. We have a very complex supply chain model. We have cold storages, we have cold vehicles taking produce from one end to another end, and that's what is something which we are doing it at our greatest effort. What we look forward from, I would say, not really government as such, but it is just the entire ecosystem which needs to come together and work with us. Is on integrating the entire supply chain. If we get a good supply chain partners with us, it would be a great cost saving to the entire community as such.
Wonderful, and I'm sure the format that we are looking at, the FPO conference, will be a great opening where you will get access to aggregated buying, and also there'll be logistics and supply chain partners that could be available. So yes, I thanks so much for sharing this input and insight into how the retail sector operates. May I request Mr. Ravi Todi to come in and share some thoughts on how machinery and tools and farm equipment and his suggestions for our committee?
Shrikant, just a little input. We've been talking about FPOs. What I have learned, it is more agri clusters.
I'm just using that as an umbrella to cover the entire aggregation.
The industry challenge becomes different because everybody's talking about marginalized farmers. So it's actually the agri clusters which will work, not the FPOs. So if you find solutions towards agri clusters rather than FPOs, FPOs becomes 300. Agri clusters are 20, 30 farmers. Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Ravi, please.
Yeah. So when it comes to farm equipment, I think tractors are really doing well. Tractors, the market is increasing. Most of the players have increased their sales. Maybe the last 2 months it's not, but overall last year the sales have really increased in tractor. But when it comes to power tillers and the smaller equipments, they are more or less stagnant. And that is because the reliance on subsidy is still a big challenge. And most states which offer subsidy, the sales are very, very good. States which do not give subsidy or are very late in giving subsidy or do not have the funds, the sales of this machinery are a big challenge. So this is a cat and mouse game that is being played, and if subsidy is there, the farmer doesn't want to buy. They want to wait till the subsidies come in, and that is where states like Odisha and Assam are doing very well. Odisha is selling more than 10,000 power tillers, while a state like Bengal, which was once the hub of power tillers, is selling not more than 3,000 also. So it's gone down so badly. Assam and all, because of the various government schemes and central schemes, the demand is pretty good, and it's again more than 10,000. While states in the south like Karnataka is doing pretty well, about 3,000 to 4,000, and Tamil Nadu is about 2,000. Again, states like Andhra and the other coastal, there's still a long way to go. So subsidy remains a challenge. The allocation of the subsidy remains a challenge, and there's still a lot of states don't have a clarity on this DBT, direct payment scheme. A lot of states have really mastered. They have very good portals where everything is available online, but still a lot of states have a long way to go. So as an industry body, we can definitely look at how to standardize this whole process, because every state is trying to follow its own norms, and either a central guideline comes where this is more or less streamlined, then things become much more easier. So that is on power tillers. On the smaller machinery, the weeders and reapers and all, which are also, the volumes are growing. I would say about 100,000 machines were sold last year only on this ground, and which is a growing market. Every state, especially the northern India and Maharashtra and Gujarat are the leaders in this. They have huge demand in the northern states, especially Kashmir, Himachal. They are doing, and Uttaranchal. They are doing very well on these smaller machines. This is not so subsidy driven. It is smaller machines costing from 30,000 to 50,000, 60,000. So it's more or less cash carry, or farmers have their money to buy it. That is a growing market. About 100,000 machines have been sold last year. And that is one area which is still 100% dependent on imports from China. Because local, there's hardly any players manufacturing this. So again, this is also equally important for the industry to grow, for the farm mechanization program to progress. So this is something that also we can work with the government, how to streamline this, and work with the clusters. Again, as Pradeep, I think clusters are very, very critical. How to get them to work and showcase them to the farmers to buy more machines, so that for them the productivity increases and farm mechanization increases in the country.
Thanks very much for that, Ravi. We face similar challenges in the micro irrigation sector, and one of the things that does help is if we consider having regional conference where we invite the stakeholders of the government, so at least they can share from successful states like Odisha, Assam, and the other states in West Bengal and Bihar, etc., could get inspired. And certainly for Indian Chamber, we made a note of this, and we'll consider organizing one at the earliest. Thank you very much. May I request Mr. GBK Rao, who's also our chairman for the Southern region, to please come in and share his suggestions for the council.
Thank you, Mr. Srikanth Goenka, and all the members giving this opportunity to few words. Today, the challenge is for healthy food. The diet which we are today, all getting diseases. The cause is the food. Using the heavy chemical fertilizers, chemical pests, causes the soil, which is pollution, water, air, and so on, and climate change. So now the time has come as what propose ahar type, of and wheat, which requires 8,000 to 10,000 liters to get the one rice on the table. Whereas the millets is only methane, which is causing the global warming. And we have to, and that is a good control. And certainly we should have a changing habit to rice wheat to millets. And second is sugarcane sugar, which requires 28,000 liters water to get the 1 kg of sugar on the table. That is a glucose. Whereas palm jaggery, which is very important, that is which it is a close. It diabetes, obesity, all the causes for diseases. That is where to shift from sugarcane sugar to this palm jaggery. Similar the herbs, which our India, the slogan is kashayam, kashayam. Kashayam, that is herbs, which we are totally neglected. The whole world is required. Farmer requires now the herbal medicinal aromatic plants, which is future for this, not for the health, which Corona, that is the COVID-19, has brought the awareness that herbs are very, very important instead of all other, the type of alternative medicine of Indian medicine, which is homeopathy, Ayurveda, naturopathy. These things are taken care, provided this free from chemical. That is what we have to propose. The other thing, what we do, refined oils, which is really causing the health hazardous, that refined oils, which we have to go for the cold press oils, because refined oils, that even the palli means that is groundnut, which is minimum 90 rupees a kg. 3 kg is required to get 1 kg of groundnut oil. But whereas in the market, 90 rupees, 100 rupees, you get the refined oil, palli oil. How do you expect that, we are fooling the public and all the issues, health or pollution, unless we take up seriously. Every village required this cold press oils, that cottage industries certainly is going to help. And the technology towards our agriculture, drone system, which is, we have to encourage as the villages, each village must have type of controlling the pests and other thing, biopesticides, which as we take. Otherwise, individual, the farmer, he doesn't know anything except that using heavy pesticides, which is causing health hazards. So I request in this direction, whatever we produce must have the healthy, and to save the planet, it is urgent need of the hour. So thank you very much. In this line, we conduct the programs every month, 3 days, Amrit Ahar, what to eat, what not to eat. The consumption, if you change the consumption, the whole, your health, your family, your all, not only your and all living beings, they take care, and Mother Earth will be taken care. The consumption. If you take the chemical base, you are diseased, and the planet is get diseased. So we have to see the consumption, what type of our Indian traditional systems, what they encourage, that we should promote. Individual farmers, very difficult to change unless we have our consumption system. Unless we consume the, instead of Pepsi, Coke, take coconut water, or the nanari, other type of fruit juice or which juice, certainly the chemical base will go away and will save our results and the planet. Thank you. Thank you, Goenkaji, and all members. And we grow 2,500 acres the natural farming since 1996. This is given, there is no mosquitoes, no viruses, bacteria, and this Corona time, we are conducting marriages, more than 165 marriages, pandemic, each room 5 members, for out 135 rooms, 5,000 people gathered in this pandemic, and no corona in our place. That is pragati. That is what we need, the type of keeping the chemical free. It helps so much.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Oh, great. Very, very interesting to hear your story, sir. Thank you very, very much. I'm going to move to Orissa now and request Shriram, my friend, and Mr. Pani to please come in and share some ideas, because we have a lot of hope on our Orissa chapter and for impact and action.
Thank you, Shrikantji. I think what you said is perfectly right. The flavor of the day is cluster farming, and what the president said is right. Going on a cluster approach is what the state government is also promoting and what we are also thinking. And FPO is one part of the cluster approach. So basically, what bricks and mortars have suggested is a right thing. And as a voluntary group, ICC, we are trying to see that we bring in as much as people, we're trying to educate them. And definitely FPO is an area where Odisha has to improve. I think government is very proactive here. And the focus of the state government is on food processing and agriculture. Recently, we had an international conference on March 30th. So it was well attended. And now I think going forward, we're trying to do a very focused kind of an approach. Recently, I had a meeting with the Secretary of the state, and we have proposed them on specific crops like jackfruit, turmeric, which are indigenous to the state. We start building capacity and we take it forward. So I think our objective this year or coming year is to be a little focused on specific crops. Instead of talking in a very generic way, we'd like to see what is strength of Odisha and what is strength of each region. Maybe not a big number, but we'll identify 3 or 4 independent crops, and we'll try to support. The state government has recently started a jackfruit person, and they're very keen to see that key jackfruit as a product which goes out of Odisha is properly processed. They are also trying to revive potato mission, and I think they want to see that we start growing potato because Odisha is dependent on Bengal for potato. So I think the state focus is also there to see that how we can also start having a little bit of production from our side. So sometimes once you stop the tap there, we feel the pinch here. So the state government is also trying to see how things move forward. And I think actively we will be, that FPO is what you suggested is a good thing. And we would like to see that ICC becomes a little more vocal in terms of cluster approach, which President told. Instead of going on bigger things, if we are able to develop at least one good cluster in my state, with ICC taking lead and making it successful in the next 2-3 years, it will set a good template for other people to also emulate. Because basically, you may not be able to cover a bigger ground because it's a huge state, a lot of things happening at the same time, and we are all working. So our basic focus would be 1 or 2 clusters where we can pitch in and we can showcase what kind of transformation we are able to bring in through ICC, its core strength, which is food processing, and a dedicated team. I think everybody in food processing sector, starting from you to everybody, is very proactive, and this is one of the very, very dynamic, because as an industry person, I know this is one of the dynamic bodies which is there. Thank you very much, and I have got for the POR, and we will send our suggestions to you. Basically, the inputs are with
we are definitely looking to conduct the FPO or agri business cluster, whatever we call it, meet in Odisha, and I'll contact you so we can come and try and meet even next week, the Chief Secretary and the APC and others, to fix a date and get going with this at the earliest.
No, but Shrikant, taking a cue from what Mr. Panda said, it's a very good suggestion. I would love Odisha to take the first initiative. If I have understood him correct, if he can create a white paper and ICC can support or adopt 1 or 2 small clusters of maybe 10-20 farmers in a particular village, in a particular area, and work with them as an experimental basis. If I've understood you correct, Mr. Panda.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, sir.
So that would be a good example for us to showcase to other governments and other states with statistics, data, and some merit to whatever we are talking. It's a very good suggestion. I would request Shrikant and Adit to, think about it and work on this as an experimental case. I mean, this is a low-hanging fruit. Instead of the larger events, this is a really low-hanging fruit which you could immediately kick off. Thank you, Mr. Pandit. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. We have time for a couple of more questions, maybe, and suggestions. May I request a gentleman from UPL, Mr. Pradeep Mishra, to please.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Shrikant. This is just hold on the start of video. Yeah, I think this is the first meeting. Of course, we are into crop protection. We need not actually elaborate our the entire crop protection products which we manufacture. But I think I went through your slides. I think I just wanted to add a couple of policy advocacy areas which should be key focus in the committee is the total integration and strategy for the global value chain and supply chain development as far as the agriculture is concerned. So this area should be a prime focus going forward for the second, third, fourth meeting that happens in 22-23. Number two is the investments and the industrial infrastructure development on the agriculture strategy has to be framed out in a streamlined way to take this advocacy area forward. Number three, I would call the trade facilitation, which we are doing the export strategy, especially in UPL, where 80% of our exports is to Latin America and areas in South America. We find a lot of the facilitation to happen as far as the agri products are concerned. So this is another policy advocacy area we should be touching upon. And of course, there has to be another efficient and cost competitiveness infrastructure. And of course, not to touch on the last point is the streamlining the regulatory and procedural registration process, which is quite very complicated and from a compliance angle as far as the contracts and enforcing those contracts and paying taxes to protect the investor is concerned. So I think these are the areas which we should touch upon as the policy advocacy areas of the Agri Committee. And coming back to UPL, I think we have added a total food value chain. As far as the crop protection is concerned, lately we are working with the potato value chain ecosystem from a post-harvest point of view, having the cold storage, working with Pepsi and food processing guys in big way to increase the yield and realization. We touch upon the specific crops and horticulture crops and then work very closely. We have set up secondly, we have set up a nurture as a subsidiary at Bangalore for the entire digitalization of the entire agriculture and the advisory services, working very closely with 5 lakh farmers and area of 400 acres where we have added value as far as the advisory. Lately, we have done through nurture, we have done the Pusa decomposer for the stubborn burning is concerned. So needless to add, we are doing big way as far as the crop protection is concerned. And going forward, we are diversifying into biostimulants and biosolutions. We have put up an NPP platform. So these are the points which just wanted to highlight on the policy advocacy and UPL doing lately, what we have done, and going forward we'll be doing it. So that's what I wanted to ask from a crop protection product point of a company like us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can I request Mr. Subhash Lode to please, from BVG Group, to please share his suggestions?
Certainly. Thank you so much, Shrikantji. Subhash, I lead Agri Value Chain at BVG Group. We own the Mega Food Park, and then we are having our interventions in agri-tech also. So basically, in a nutshell, we contribute around, say, agriculture sector and say allied contribute around, say, 15 to 16% to the GDP. While dependency on these sectors by population is of around 50%, while 85% is contributed by other product and services, sectors. So the ratio, if we take 15 by 50 and then 85 by 50, overall per capita contribution or earnings of this particular, say agriculture sector is like more than, or say less than 1/5 of what other sectors are actually doing. So somehow we should actually do a policy paper on this particular, wide gap into the, income that is being taken by the people who are employed in agriculture. That is one aspect of it. Second, I would like to touch that if we see the farm mechanizations that is taking place widely, tractors actually replace the bullocks, and certainly when tractors and the further farmer mechanizations will place the individual farmer or the farm laborers out of job.
रिक्वेस्ट कौन सी उससे डाला था, लाइक अपने उससे एआरपी से किया था या लाइक डीपीआर
रिक्वेस्ट
host, can you please mute her?
Yeah.
So further farm mechanization, we will have some intelligent machines, AIML backed machines will be there, where almost the farm labor will be placed out of job. So as a policy, we have to understand how exactly that change is going to happen. This change will be certainly very much different than computers helping us improving the efficiency. AIML powered mechanization will put farmers and the laborers out of job. So we have to also think on that particular direction. This is probably coming in next 5-10 years, down the line. So these 2 points I would like to make, where ICC should take some forward-looking thoughts from a committee and provide the guidance around it. Yeah, thank you, Srikanji, for the.
Thank you. We are making notes, and also this meeting is being recorded, so we will review all the valuable inputs and suggestions, and certainly incorporate it in the next meeting. When you see, we will see hopefully the impact of as many of those as we can incorporate. Thank you very much for your valuable inputs, sir. May I request Mr. Sukumaran from RENAC India to please give us his inputs.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak today. My name is Sukumaran. I represent RENAC India Limited. We are a company engaged in creating infrastructure for the cold chain, right from the farm to fork, as you say. We have a complete range of products and services in the cold chain sector, right? For the past 28 years, we have been working on cold chain infrastructure creation. Even when cold chains were not existing in this country, we have been working. In the past 10-15 years, we have seen that a tremendous impetus has come on the cold chain evolution. So we have been aggressively working on peas processing in the northern belt. We are one of the pioneers in bringing indigenous IQF freezing for peas, mutter freezing. If you look at about 10-12 years ago, each of these freezing technology for peas processing was costing up to 3.5-4 crores. So we indigenized the technology, and we have brought down the pricing to a substantial extent within about 1.5 crores. And today we have more than 75 IQF working in the northern Tarai belt. So we have been inducting various technologies right from the seeds to the plate. So we have a lot of interesting equipments put up in all the sectors where cold chain is required. And we are well geared up to support the Indian agri sector, the marine, fruits and vegetables, fish, anywhere in Blue Revolution, where we have all the ranges of products available with us. So we will be willing to participate in any forum to bring in these Atmanirbhar-based products and services, which will be of great help to the Indian farming community. And we in RENEC firmly believe if China can become the factory of the world, India can become the food basket of the world. Thank you.
Oh, lovely. We'll certainly pick you up and take your help in our event, sir. Mr. Pankaj Jha from NBHC, can I request you, sir?
Thank you, Srikanth. Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, basically we are in warehousing segment, warehousing of the agri commodity and enabling it for the financing. So we are big way in Bihar and Bengal. So there we are handling almost around 3 lakh tons of different commodities. But what actually I am taking opportunity to highlight, particularly in the West Bengal, the warehousing infrastructure is a big problem there. So there, if we can do something, if we can present it to the industry or the government, if they can, incentivize something to develop that warehousing infrastructure, it will be great help for the industry itself. And apart from that, just talking about ourselves, so very recently we have launched our e-platform. The sole intention is the farmers linkage with the market. So there we have just progressed, and however, market and even the farmers will take time. That the education part is there, the training is required, but the things are developing in the right way. These are the 2 points which I want to highlight. The rest everything you have already covered in your slide that I've seen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Santosh from Advanta Seeds. Are you there, Mr. Santosh? Okay. While we wait for Mr. Rana from Edisha Agitech.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let me introduce our company. We are operating Edisha Agitech in the domain of farm machinery. We are not very old, but our brands are very old. Everybody may be knowing this Belarus tractor. So this Belarus tractor we brought again in India, and we are developing our own tractors, last track, that is also now in the market. So we have not made only tractors, we came with the complete solution for farm machinery. So in our portfolio, you can find every machinery which is required for small farmer and up to large farmer. So our presence already there right now in UP, MP, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab, Maharashtra. So very soon you can find us in your all territories like eastern part of India as well as south part of India. So our aim is to provide high-tech machinery to all the farmers at affordable price. We want to bring some machineries which is not available in Indian market, but those machineries are very costly. If we import, we have to pay huge taxes, lot of transportation cost. So our partners are agreed from Europe and other part of the world. They are coming with us as a real partner and for joint manufacturing in India. So many of our products are already started, like tractors is started, combine harvester we already started, and implements we are already doing it. Even now we have the drones for agriculture farming. But issue is there are many companies like us in the drone sector, but no one is getting licenses for supply of the drones. As of now, we can only provide our drones to government organizations or departments. No company is officially allowed to sell these drones to the customers in India. This is a major vision of Prime Minister, and every day we see this drone Mahotsav and all. But we have made such kind of stringent specifications. More than hundreds of companies have applied for drone certification. None of them got passed. So what is the use of making such kind of stringent specifications and making so much rumor every farmer will have a drone? how these drones will get to the farmers. See, we are operating this machines in two manners. One is we have this all land moving machines which can spread this fertilizers as well as pesticides. But when we are going with the drones, it is so precious. With lesser quantity, we can have a much more crop protection. We can utilize any kind of pesticides in that drone. So I suggest ICC to interact with the government body to help the farmers to get easily these drones. So thank you very much for giving me that opportunity to put my concern, and hope we all will do better for farmers.
Thank you, Rana sir, for this important insight into drones, because it's certainly the talk of the town, and we'll see how we can represent on behalf of the industry. Can I request now Mr. Sudhir Kumar from Frick India to please share? I'm sorry, friends, ladies and gentlemen, we are taking a little more time than we had scheduled, but these inputs are all very valuable, and this is our first meeting. We'll try and be more efficient in the next one. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I take leave? I have another call at 4:30, so I have to prepare for that. If I have your permission, sir.
Thank you, President, for being here and guiding us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Sudhir.
Yeah, good evening to all. I've been listening to all fellow participants, and I think it's a very good initiative, because agriculture, as our chairman was telling, people are now willing to go to the cities and forget agriculture. So we have to definitely develop agri entrepreneurship. Frick India is almost 60 years in this field, helping out farmers in setting up cold storages, and we are one of the major pioneers in setting up dairy refrigeration, like milk. Even milk is part of agriculture, which gives out very faster income than you need to wait for 4 months, 5 months after you do the crop. So dairy industries, India, as you all know, is one of the largest producers. We are the #1 producers, and we are having a growth of 4 to 5% in dairy industry. So Frick India helps out in setting up dairy projects, and also value addition is one of the major thing which needed to be done in seafood and as well as in dairy. So we will be very much interested to impart any training or participate in seminars to add our experience to this field. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for your assurance, for support. We've always been banking on Frick India, and you've never been disappointing us. Thank you, sir. Mr. Anup Mishra from Yara.
You can call Adventist. Yes, there.
Okay.
Mr. Santosh from.
You want to conduct it from here on, Madhuvana? You want to just make sure?
Yeah, Mr. Santosh.
Hi. Good evening.
From Adventist.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So good evening, sir. Thanks for giving the opportunity. I think Advanta is a subsidiary group of real company, and I think we are dealing with the seeds and with the crop protection and the post-harvest management. So basically, Advanta, we are dealing with there are 3 verticals, field crops, vegetables, forages, and here we are working as a first and for the profitability. How can we improve the profitability and go to the growers? So the major just what we are facing right now is climate change. So now we are seeing there are different scenarios. One is at the time of the drought is hitting farmers or community. At the time of harvesting, the heavy rains are coming, and the quality of the produce is deteriorating. So I think it is a globally it is a community as well as the scientific is concerned.
think he has a problem with his connectivity.
Mr. Santosh, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, please continue.
Am I audible? There is.
Yeah, continue.
There is a challenge. How to address challenges, because our of ability to just and at the
Voice is breaking.
So
we can't hear.
Hello.
You should move forward now.
Yeah,
we should go to the next one.
Yeah,
okay.
Mr. Vaibhav Rai.
Yeah,
Mr. Vaibhav Rai of Pallishri. Sir, over to you.
Can you give me just 5 minutes? I am trying to locate a particular corner where my net can be more reasonable.
You are,
Okay.
but you are okay.
Yeah, we can go to the next one.
Yeah, Colonel Sujan Mohanty wanted to make a point. He sent me a message.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, just hold on. I'm just switching on the video. Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have taken a plunge into horticulture post my army life 4 years back in Odisha, and I had tried my hands in orchids. Yeah, it's going good. I won't speak about orchids because it's a very capital intensive project. Subsequently, I started doing this honey production, and we just started with 25 bee boxes during the COVID time, and I have an experience of 2 years now. So first year I increased it to 30, the second year I increased it to 60. Like presently I have got 60 bee boxes out of 25 when I started it. Next year I'm planning to take it forward to 125. But irrespective of whatever funds you have and the resources you have, you can't have more than 100, 125 bee boxes at any particular location. Why I am harping on this point is in Odisha, we have got almost 1,55,000 square kilometers land area, which is there. And each bee box cluster, it can have an area of influence of say around 1 square kilometer, 1 kilometer radius area, the flora, the nectar, the bees are going to collect it from there. With 25 bee boxes, what I have observed in the last 2 years, last year I could get something like a lakh rupee, and this year I have got around 1.5 lakh rupee. The investment is just 1 lakh rupee. If we are looking at the marginal farmers, look at the panchayat levels, yes, the KVK is working, different organizations are working towards the bee farming and things like that. But if it could be slightly more structured, taking help from the Indian Chamber of Commerce and our organizing capability, what we have, and the correct training also is to be required to be given to them. So first is the resources. Second is identifying the right person who is going to take care of it. And 25 bee boxes, one person is not going to work for more than 2 hours a day in the morning time. Rest of the time he can do his own works. So doing that, if we are looking at say 1.5 lakhs rupees is the total revenue, or 1.2 lakhs, let's take it as 1.2 lakhs rupees is the total revenue, net profit would be something like 80,000 rupees. So 8,000 rupees per household income, we can increase it for 1 lakh, 1,50,000 people if we take it in a structured way. So my suggestion to the chairman sir and the august audience is that if we can look at it and use the land area and make a hub and spoke concept, and we can identify the people, give them the training and take it in an organized manner, I think the income revenue will be more, and also the crop production is going to increase by 20 to 25%. I just wanted to make this point. Thank you so much.
Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you for this idea, sir. Yes, Madhuparna.
Yeah, Mr. Vaibhav Rai, I think he is ready. Yeah, please.
Yes, my namaskar to the august audience and the elite committee of the Indian Chamber of Commerce. There's been a fantastic brainstorming session with great inputs. Well, we come from a pretty old company. We are about 75 years old. We are into hybrid and high-yielding variety of several varieties of seeds, as well as micronutrients, plant-based personal care products, completely nature-based solutions. So what I quickly want to add to the already very enlightening suggestions is thrust towards horticulture, and with a guidance from the government on to avoid monoculture and use more diverse cropping pattern, which will be integrated by an agriculture cluster or an FPO to give adequate returns to smaller and marginal farmers who typically look at one single crop for easy solutions to the pressing needs, which is quite natural. So one of the things that the West Bengal success story of agriculture also has is the horticulture. So West Bengal has grown immensely in terms of a lot of horticultural products, and it continues to grow. So we have a nursery ourselves, and we are integrating into plantations also, like food plantations. So one of the things that if you see these days and what is going to come up in the future is plant-based proteins. Things like even people like ITC are researching. There is a startup called Blue Tribe, funded by your Virat Kohli and Anushka Sharma, on completely plant-based proteins. So these plant-based proteins are a big things of the future, given the pressures of climate change and the pressure to switch from animal protein abroad. These are very good export opportunity for jackfruit-based proteins, for example. Also, if you look at things like coconut, for example, there is a huge prospect of using subscale, to shift from, to migrate from subscale agriculture, subsistence agriculture into things like coconut farming, but once again with a caveat to avoid monoculture. Give a classic case of Sundarbans that they went into coconut monoculture, and now they're being infested with an unknown white fly, which they're significantly affecting their production. Then another thing is, if you look at cardamom in the Kalimpong district of a small village called Tode, it was a niche of cardamom was like green gold to them. But once again, monoculture, and now they have a new fungus which is completely destroying their fields. So the concept of using diverse crops needs to be incentivized by government, and if we can have a policy of incentivizing, let's say, diverse horticulture, that would motivate the farmer into avoiding quick, easy money and think of a more smart, a more resilient, a more robust horticultural model for the future. So that's a small input I wanted to give for this August forum.
Thank you, sir. Madhuparna?
Yeah, so I think we are now over. I think so Subhash Bhattacharya from Northeast, he is on another call. He would be joining, but I think.
Okay, so then maybe we can move and now it's time now that I request our co-chair, Mr. Bagri, to please come in and give his suggestions and then also do the summing up on behalf of all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goenka. I hope I hope I'm audible, and it's been, I think, one of the most insightful and engaging sessions that we've had in the ICC Food and Agri Committee so far, and the committee has definitely grown in terms of focus and leadership, especially with all the initiatives that Shrikantji has been trying to drive. And today, especially listening to Mr. Majumdar, listening to Mr. Sureka, and actually voicing the views of every member has been extremely engaging. So before I sum up, I'll just cover the other aspects of the committee, beyond what we discussed. So we touched upon in this in this meeting a lot more on the upstream part of the value chain, which ICC has been very actively working on. But I think where our role has been extremely effective is also the downstream part on the food processing side. And if I look at the outlook for food processors over the next few months, it is actually a fairly volatile environment, both from a regulatory standpoint, because we're at the cusp of a range of regulatory changes which are to be implemented or in process of being implemented or in discussions. of policy advocacy will remain one of the core avenues that we try and drive. So be it legal metrology or be it conversations with the FSSAI on HFSS or with other regulatory compliances. So there are a host of these compliances which we are trying to demystify and voice out. Where I'm based out of Delhi, so where I have seen ICC's strength, and I've always relayed this feedback back, is the impetus on East, where ICC puts us in a very unique spot in the views of the government, and it is a chamber which is viewed to as the go-to chamber for the East. So even when pre-COVID we were planning to do the mega food event, I think ICC was given the mandate for East. So from that point of view, our focus on our core is something that I would highly recommend stays in listening to the voices of Orissa, listening to the voices of West Bengal and Northeast. I know that's there to stay as we spread our wings across India. To sum up, I would definitely want to thank Mr. Sureka for his guidance in building the chamber's vision. He shared the insight on food shortage. This is something that we've been working on for decades, on how to improve the supply chain infrastructure so that wastages of the tune of 40% plus are not lost in the supply chain ecosystem. And what was the highlight of today's session was Mr. Majumdar's entire engagement in the West Bengal government as entrepreneurs, as business owners. I think we can all take a leaf from his journey. So actually delivering 3x growth in average farmers' income from 91,000 to 2,93,000, from 17-18 to now is not a menial task by any measure. And the steps taken to grow paddy, maize, other crops. And the key approach which he delivered with is what I've always truly believed is that instead of going from farm to fork, he went back to the demand side and went from fork to farm and focused on crops which would actually be consumed downstream. And I think that's yielded the significant delta that West Bengal has enjoyed in the agri ecosystem. And we look forward to his guidance in ICC's future events as well. But looking at the agenda in the terms of reference, Shrikantji very succinctly and very clearly articulated. I think it's perfectly in place for us now with a strong event schedule and 3 key focus areas, right from FPOs to food processing. And I would say Mr. Goenka's inputs on having agri clusters is an extremely important input. I know the government has done a fair amount of work on agri clusters. There is an agri cluster scheme well in place in terms of Sampada as well, which offers significant investment for agri clusters. But a fair amount of sensitization around what can be done is required to deliver these schemes to end users, because in majority of the cases we've seen that the government has all the intent to actually provide incentives, and they're looking for viable entrepreneurs to be able to take up these projects. And there are a good amount of active entrepreneurs in the ecosystem. So platforms such as the ICC play a crucial role in dispensing this information to all the entrepreneurs and members in the ecosystem. Lots of comments and insights, and I'm sure we'll have a detailed set of notes and recordings. But just to highlight a few, right from Dr. Chauhan's view on aggregation of marginal farmers, which has been a strong consensus coming out to all the initiatives that Ms. Jha has done at Millet Magic with tribal enablement and what she wants to do with dairy is extremely encouraging. I definitely encourage that there are more young people and startups which form a part of this August forum. Mr. Todi gave a fairly detailed overview on the demand increase for machinery. Even Mr. Gupta's insight on supply chain improvements and aggregation to reduce damages was something that was echoed very strongly in the group. Mr. Panda's focus on Odisha, specifically jackfruit and potatoes, and how we're trying to create a difference there is something that we definitely want to drive forward. I would definitely look forward to Mr. Padaru's inputs on trainings with regards to FRIC. Dr. Sarna had made a comment on drone policy, and what I must add is that the government of India has been fairly receptive to making new laws for drones. I know it seems like and the government is working at a backlog to how technology is advancing. But when I speak to entrepreneurs in the aerial photography segment, they're far happier now than they were a few years back when there were lots of challenges around aerial photography with regards to drones, and that has significantly improved since then. So I'm sure that there is a huge opportunity sitting with us, and I'm sure with due course of time and the right representation, we'll be able to overcome some of those challenges as well. And I echo Mr. Roy's words on plant-based proteins. It's a huge opportunity. Companies such as Beyond Meat, Impossible Foods, Oatly, which is in the grain-based segment, have done tremendous amount of work in the plant-based proteins, and it is definitely not just limited to meat alternatives, but an extremely large avenue where India has the raw materials, be it jackfruit or be it soy, to be able to cater to plant-based products, and including cashew and millets, which form a substantial alternative for plant-based products. We have to leverage on that and be a part of this global market. The challenge is that when we go to the shelves of the West, recently in some of the leading supermarkets in the West, the representation of Indian brands in those supermarkets is very, very limited when we compare ourselves to other countries of the world, be it South America or be it the US. So it is extremely limited, and that's where a lot of handholding would be required to make our presence felt, because we have the right ingredients. We need to be able to present that and package that and market that in a manner which appeals to the Western consumer and doesn't just let our exports be a part of what goes to the Indian diaspora outside of India. So I think all of these inputs would be added to our agenda. Mr. Rao spoke about health and wellness and the whole Amrit Ahar initiative that he's been taking, which is extremely inspiring. We look forward to Mr. Mishra's guidance on policy advocacy as well. But I'd like to especially thank Mr. Shrikant Goenka for providing the leadership for this forum. I think it's been a very engaging committee that we have at ICC, and Mr. Sureka for all his guidance. He's been extremely hands-on in guiding us on what and driving the agenda for what the Food and Agri Committee must do. And we look forward to his guidance in the year and in future events. And from all the members, I'd like to first thank you for your presence. I know it's you've taken times out of your busy schedule, but what Madhuparna ji, Shrikant ji, and I would need is also your active involvement beyond these meetings, be it our events or be it advocacy or suggestions. So we'd welcome all of that, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you so much for taking time out to attend this ICC forum.
Thank you, Ditya. Thank you for this beautiful summary. You've really done it so beautifully and meticulously. May I now invite our DG, Dr. Rajiv Singh, who's really the backbone of this whole the whole initiative. Anything we do, he and of course under his guidance Madhuparna and the whole team. But may I request Dr. Singh to please come in and give the vote of thanks.
Thank you. I have the pleasant task and the easy task to thank everybody. But I must say the kind of discussions and the diversity which we have seen today is truly amazing. And what I see is that each member in this group is championing the cause of helping the farmers and creating a larger impact on the economy. I also see some of the success stories which, let's say, the members have already created can be replicated in other parts. As a chamber, I feel we can definitely do much more on the policy front, because we heard some of the policy points. Maybe we could encourage our members to raise the policy issues with us, because ICC has great connect at the ministry level in Delhi, whether that is Ministry of Chemicals or the Ministry of Food Processing, Ministry of Agri, or even Niti Aayog, which sometimes on larger issues works with them, and also at the state level. So policy could be one of our theme. And what has also emerged that maybe if we create some smaller success stories, that could become an example, because after all, chamber can only, let's say, share the models, create the models, and then it is up to industry at large, the state governments, to also work on it. And the last point is, I think training, technology, these are two big themes which have really come up. ICC connects with, I would say, thousands of farmers, and I'm sure this group connects every year with the lakhs and lakhs. So there is a reach. We have a network. Maybe within this group, we can use the network and the strength of the network and try to make impact not only in terms of policy, but also providing the linkages, connecting the farmers, technology, providing a platform where industry can connect with the users. And also within the industry, also I see plenty of synergies within this group and the larger industry groups. I think there are plenty of synergies which we can try to tap. With these words, I would like to thank everybody, and special thanks to our chair, Mr. Goenka, for being so passionate about this whole thing. And that is what is driving the committee and what we do. Thank you, and thanks to Mr. Bagri also. Thank you, all the members.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.